You guys want to bring as many Web2 devs into Web3 as possible.
Sui and Solana were the only ecosystems that saw dev growth.
They can be very creative with new sets of tools.
They're building Gmail replacement. They're building Instagram replacement.
You say you have a pattern for that?
There are a couple of billion people on this earth that don't have access to financial services. Effectively, it keeps poor people poor.
You can actually send money without the internet at all.
That's core to your DNA.
Ultimately, we're talking about protecting hundreds of billions of dollars.
We are delivering the most secure environments.
What are the exciting things you guys got planned?
Within the next 2 years, Sui will be the only quantum secure.
GM one and all, and welcome to another interview here on Coin Bureau. Now, we've got a very special IRL interview for you today because to my left, we've got Mr. Adeniyi Abiodun, the CPO and co-founder of Mysten Labs. And to my right, Mr. Christian Thompson, the managing director of the Sui Foundation. So, gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for having us here at the Sui IRL event for the Creator Campus. There are worse places to be right now than beautiful Bali, so thank you for that. So I want to start off first of all now because this is all about community building, right? And obviously, since the past 2 years, from Basecamp 1 to Basecamp now in Dubai, which I was there, and it was amazing to see how much the ecosystem has grown. How important is it to you in terms of the community growth in Sui? Because I've seen a lot of discussion, at least more recently, around the importance of crypto communities. Yeah. So how important is that for you guys, and how do you talk about the growth, and then where you think that's going?
Yeah, for projects such as Sui, Walrus, you name it, these are decentralized projects, right? It's not like a traditional company in which you launch and you build fandom in other ways. Community aspect is absolutely critical to any form of growth because you have an early set of people who believe in what you're doing and are going to be your voice and your representation of the product that you're pushing out in various markets. And you cannot scale just by hiring people. So it's very, very important for us to build a community, but more importantly for us to educate that community on what Sui is about, what we're building, what's in the pipeline for the future, so that they're able to narrate that story to a local audience that they focus on. So community is central to growing any crypto ecosystem to a large degree. It's always a community market fit, right? Almost like product market fit. You have to have both product market fit and also community market fit.
Yeah, you were telling me as well at breakfast around how some of your early community members, like they've dispelled all the FUD and they've been your strongest, most hardcore defenders since then, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when we started Sui, we had a very different idea of how to grow community. And over time, it was very, very difficult because we did not do the traditional means of running an airdrop for the launch of a network. But we were focused very heavily on the technology, and we believed in the technology that we had to have an early adopter cycle of fans of what we were building. And then from then on, you build on a massive community from there. And we have people who are fighting the FUD on Discord or Twitter, fighting the cause that we had. And overall, those community members have now grown prominent in the ecosystem. So we're very true to who we were. Yeah. And that community represents almost the culture that we have at Mysten at the Sui Foundation as well.
The FUD fighters. Yeah, Christian, do you have anything to add to that, especially from the perspective of the foundation side, in terms of these events you guys organize? How does that help grow the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like a bit of a funnel, right? I mean, you get people that sort of come in the top, and then you get people that you get to refine things with, right? So in this particular instance, right, we get to get closer to those that, like yourself, who are important in the ecosystem for creating content in it, right? We have other groups of community that are more focused on developers and that kind of thing, and we put together events that allow us to get closer to them, to enable them, to educate them in such a way that we can deliver that content across the world in lots of languages and lots of communities, sort of all at the same time.
Yeah. So the community aspect is one thing from a retail perspective, but obviously, as we were discussing earlier, Sui is like trying to become also a bit of an enterprise blockchain in terms of use and adoption by businesses. Yeah. So I'm curious, in terms of your efforts, how much of that is driven towards partnerships and integrations with these other enterprise solutions, fintech and TradFi, versus the community efforts?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely critical, right? I mean, the overall crypto sort of economy is only so big, right? And so our focus, of course, is both serving our degen community and the people that are building interesting, new, novel sort of projects, and at the same time really working to outreach to the Web2 community, large institutions, government, enterprise, in a way that we can enable them to come into Web3 and build in the space as well. So yeah, so it's definitely a balancing act there.
And then another aspect, Adeniyi, in terms of community is obviously your builders, right? And your devs. And this is one of your initiatives in terms of like you guys want to bring as many Web2 devs into Web3 as possible.
Absolutely.
So what are you guys doing on that side from both the Mysten side and the foundation side to get more developers interested in building on Sui?
Yeah, it's interestingly, from a data perspective, Sui and Solana were the only ecosystems that saw dev growth in the last 12 months. So while most of crypto dropped in developer count, Sui and Solana actually outgrew everyone else. Separately from that, in the last 2 years, Sui has outgrown most ecosystems in terms of percentage from a dev perspective. So we're doing something right from a dev onboarding right now. But I think if we look at, as I said, just looking at crypto alone is way too small. There are over 9 to 12 million different JavaScript developers, and we believe in a world where most applications for the internet will have an element of smart contract technology that's required for finality, for solving contract disputes, for building anything related to payments. You're going to be using elements of smart contracts for decentralized platforms. We believe Move that we invented at Facebook is that new JavaScript. And for that, we need to be able to talk to an audience that is traditionally Web2. And there are millions and millions of devs that I think we've got to go out and win over the next 2 to 3 years. So the focus for the Sui Foundation, focus for Mysten, me at Mysten, I'm sure for Christian, a foundation over the next like 3 to 4 years is really like a parabolic growth in dev count in the ecosystem. Like more devs in the ecosystem, more projects launching in the ecosystem, more value for the ecosystem. That's really going to be the absolute predominant focus for the time being.
Yeah, and one of the best ways to onboard these devs, and Costas talked about it in his presentation today, is the hackathons you guys do. So how are these planned out? Like how many of these do you plan to have a year, and what's the criteria for these hackathons?
Yeah, I mean, we have them planned out several times a year, and they varying size, right? So you have some that's kind of like a pickup game, right? We have places like Vietnam and Greece and others where we have an actual location where people can come and collaborate and do hackathons like a pickup game basketball. And then we have other ones that are more structured, that are big, that are global, that have that big push. In addition to the hackathons, we also have boot camps, right? And boot camps are meant for us to bring in large numbers of developers, existing Web2 developers, not only educate them in Move, but educate them in the full stack that is Sui. So you look at Sui, you look at Walrus, you look at Seal, you look at Nautilus, you look at all of the new things that we're talking about, right? And being able to get them to a place where they can be very creative with new sets of tools and be able to do so and build in a new environment, Web3, that's really meaningful.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you look at the hackathon submissions 24 months ago to what there were in the most recent hackathons, it is night and day. Yeah. From people just building, the basic replica dexes that we've seen so many times that gets boring, to now people building full-fledged social media apps. They're building Gmail replacement. They're building Instagram replacement. They're building Signal replacements or even Telegram replacements, all on Sui and Walrus and the full stack that we keep talking about. So the surface area of what devs can build, really you can now onboard real Web2 devs that can build real businesses finally on chain. Yeah, and that's what's really exciting. Yeah.
And that's the thing about the full stack is that you couldn't do it if it's just an L1, right? You have to have that full stack. That it's like the guy with the toolbox, right? I mean, if you just have a wrench, there's a limited amount of things that you can do. But we've given developers a full toolbox full of tools to be able to be really creative.
One programming language.
So that's a great segue into the actual protocol itself and what you guys are building and priorities to that. So because as part of the discussions and presentations here, it was trying to think about it, not just, we want to build on an L1, we want to build apps, right?
Correct.
And we want to build apps for a consumer space that doesn't really care, you don't really care about the actual underlying infrastructure, that's all abstracted away. But I'm curious now in terms of your angle of attack for trying to get as mass consumers as well. Some crypto projects go through the mobile route, and you guys have gone very much focused on the gaming route, especially with Sui Play. So I'm curious to see why that course has been taken and how things are going on that front and the GameFi front.
Yeah, so we just recently launched the Sui Play 0x1 that's already started shipping. We actually have a lot of other manufacturers and OEMs who are going to build their own Sui Play device and offer it to the broader market. That has always been the play for us. Gaming for us is the lowest friction way to bring as many users into the ecosystem as possible, because we actually think gamers are going to drive a ton of the DeFi volume in the future. Games need to be able to swap, they need to be able to buy, they need to be able to sell. They need to be able to do all sorts of very interesting things that are gated by smart contracts or rules. So that is for us a big angle to win as many users as possible. Beyond that as well, we've seen a lot of growth, and recently Alchemy just launched on Sui. Alchemy is actually this centralized platform that is powering ads. It's an Adtech platform where you are now able to farm yield from ads. So you have people like Coca-Cola using Alchemy to basically deliver ads to the users they want. And you can effectively fund creators or platforms that are running ads and allowing them to take those funds out within a day rather than waiting for 30 days to 90 days, which is the typical cycle by which you get paid. So Sui is actually solving real problems in ad tech for the first time as well. So we think, again, beyond just gaming, the use cases now people can build are very consumer-centric, but also solve B2B-related issues. We want people to wake up in the morning and every time they're using an app on the internet, there's an element of Sui in there. And they don't have to know that it's Sui. Just like today, you don't know if you're using Google or using AWS or using some other infrastructure. Sui is going to be a fundamental piece of the internet infrastructure.
Just zoning in on that ad tech one, I'm curious though, because especially for the marketing businesses, like what is the main benefits for it, for using an ad tech project like that, as opposed to just normal infrastructure and technology they've got?
Absolutely. So if you look at the ads business today, right, it is such a web that there is so much slippage in between. What I mean by that is when you submit an ad to when a user gets paid, there's so many middlemen or companies that sit in the fray that are taking a bit of a fee here and there. And in regards to that, it actually takes most creators between 30 to like 90 days to get paid. So imagine I'm a publisher, I'm a creator, and I've got bills to pay. I do a partnership, so I start displaying ads, and I'm getting paid for these ads, but I can't get my check for 90 days. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So now with using Alchemy, that time frame from which an ad is displayed to when you get paid is actually real time. So the way Alchemy solves a problem is Alchemy ultimately allows you to provide liquidity to the ad tech platform as a whole. So you as a creator can now receive funds a lot sooner, and you pay a small amount of percentage to the yield farmers to a large degree. Okay. So that's decentralized infrastructure giving real-time visibility directly into the ads being delivered. You get guarantee that people have actually watched the ads. At the same time, creators can get paid instantly rather than waiting for long periods of time to get funded.
So full transparency and disintermediation of the payment stages.
Absolutely.
Got
absolutely.
it. So Christian, moving on to another part of, obviously, you guys came from the Libra stable, which is a stable coin, which is focused on building the Meta stable coin back in the day. And I'm curious now in terms of niches and growth areas, in terms of payment side. Like, is that a priority for you guys? Are you building on any sort of payment apps and rails in the Sui ecosystem to build out that community?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Our foray and ability to build, interesting delivery mechanisms for financial services is core to what it is we feel like is important and how we will grow. We still believe very strongly, as an example, that there are a couple of billion people on this earth that don't have access to financial services, and it's a shame, right? Effectively, it keeps poor people poor, right? And this is something that we are very passionate about, that we believe that we can solve in many instances. So we're excited about the kinds of things that we can do, particularly in financial services. There are a number of partnerships that are in the pipeline that we're working on that are big, that are really important, that are a little early for us to announce. But we come from a place. Of course, most of us come from Facebook, and at Facebook, we serve 2 billion people a day. And so the kinds of things that we tend to build are things that will take a little longer to mature, but once they do, they're huge. And so, you'll see us as time goes by, get more and more integrated with core financial services that do really interesting, meaningful things across the globe.
So one of my jobs while at Meta was actually leading a work stream to try to make it possible for anyone in the world to receive aid or payments without the internet or involvement of using any app whatsoever. And we made some progress while at Meta, but it was still kind of clunky, very difficult. Once we left, we were able to move a lot faster. And we've continued that project that we were working on initially at Facebook, and now We have schemes with Sui where we gave a demo today where you can send money anywhere in the world by using just SMS without having to use a wallet. You can actually send money without the internet at all. And you can even do that without having to share an address or anything like that with people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to like put a full stop on that. I mean, the idea of being able to conduct transactions in places that are very remote in the world and allow people access to financial services. I mean, think about that for a second. You're talking about billions of people who have today not had access to these kinds of things.
Correct.
And it's a patent that we hold that allows us to be able to do what we call internetless transactions. So the ability for someone to actually conduct a financial transaction without the internet, without cellular, right? And so you start enabling really interesting things for people at like a scale that's pretty remarkable.
It's really interesting. So you say you have a patent for that. So that's basically a massive moat in terms of like blockchains. Wow. Okay.
It's a moat for the Sui ecosystem.
For the Sui ecosystem, yeah. As long as you're within the Sui ecosystem.
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
So obviously payments is one, gaming is another. I'm curious in terms of like other use cases in terms of like, you've obviously got a lot of projects that have launched like Walrus, storage and Debook in terms of trading. So I'm curious in terms of what other use cases in terms of people building and developing projects on are you most excited about?
One of the protocols that recently got announced is one called Nautilus.
Okay.
It's the ability to do highly computationally heavy execution and transaction execution within a trusted execution environment and using Move to control that. So one project using that right now is actually Bluefin. Okay. So Bluefin is able to execute trades at very lightning speed, literally with 1 millisecond latency now, like literally millisecond latency for perps, which is way faster than anything else that exists in the market. And that matters if you are a market maker and you need to be able to trade in and out of position as quickly as possible. That results in lower spreads between bids and asks that you'd ever get on any other platform. So that element also is great because we have people doing, crowdsourced inference and doing that directly using Nautilus is the way to go. So you can actually run AI models directly on Sui using Nautilus and verify that using Move smart contracts. Our point is Move will be this framework that you use to control things on the internet forever. Like right now, JavaScript has been that scheme, but it doesn't, for when it comes to assets of value, it's not going to be something you can trust that's robust enough. But Move will be that language that is safe enough that allows you to control storage, control execution, control verification. You do that all in a single platform that Sui gives you.
This part is exciting to me because really what you're doing is you're taking like brand new kinds of tools that have literally never existed before and creating a situation where they all play together. So you get whole new sets of tools that all play well together. And when you put those kinds of things in front of creative people and teach them how to use the tools, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out like what that creative arc looks like, right? Yeah. I mean, if you took as an example, right, the difference between a hand saw and now a battery-powered skill saw, and the kinds of things that a person can do with that versus a hand is faster, better, cheaper, far more creative in remote places. Like there's just, it's going to be a very exciting world to watch this stack fully develop. Because again, it's not about a layer one, it's not about one thing or another thing. It is about that full toolbox that all work together in really meaningful ways, watching creative people do interesting things.
To that tune, it's about creating financial services for the unbanked now. Yeah. Now you could do KYC. I don't know if you guys are aware, but those recent KYC documents for founders in crypto showing up online and ransom being thrown for it, right? Now you can do full KYC using a TEE using Sui and not have to share any personal information directly. So I can load up my passport, it can be scanned by an AI ML model, directly verified within a trusted enclave, verified by a Move smart contract platform, and not have to go to a user to validate.
Controlled by you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always in the user's control. So these are the kind of things that we think the new internet absolutely needs. We were seeing this while we're at Meta, and we saw nobody was building it. I'm like, okay, well, we can't build it at Meta because It's not our topmost priority. Serving ads is. So we have to leave to actually make that reality, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, the global coordination layer, to quote you.
It's a global coordination layer,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So coming back to the security point and aspect, I mean, it seems as if, speaking to you guys as well at breakfast and listening to Costa's talk, in terms of the emphasis on security as a blockchain, right? That's core to your DNA in terms of the people who work with you and in terms of Move itself, like how it was born. So I'm curious, why is that such a big focus for you guys, and what is it that other blockchains, not naming any, are not managing to get in that rail?
So we've always believed that crypto right now is small and has got a propensity to grow into the multi-trillions in terms of valuation, hundreds of trillions in valuation. So for now, we believe a rising tide is only going to help all boats. So a smart contract hack or a security issue elsewhere is a problem for all of us. Mysten has actually been involved in helping numerous exchanges solve attacks from solvency proofs. We've actually helped a lot of exchanges sidestep a lot of hacks and attacks that could have affected people, FTX kind of attacks. So we're actually also engaged in submitting AI reviews or code reviews with other networks in the ecosystem. So we're here to actually help other ecosystems. And our background in building infrastructure and security at Facebook, at Google, other companies, we realize that just looking out for ourselves doesn't help. You actually need to look out for the help for the entire ecosystem, because ultimately we're all trying to grow together to a large extent. So when it comes to security, we're always building tools. We're launching something this year that we announced a bit earlier that is going to effectively make it impossible for a hacker to change anything on DeFi protocol you go to. If you go to any website and you want to do a transaction, if there's any injection attacks or anything that was changed with any of the meta, you'll be able to validate that and verify that ahead of time. So that kind of security you need for any transactional website, whether it's your bank account to a DeFi protocol. But we're going to roll that out in the next 2 to 3 months. We haven't given it a name publicly yet, but we'd love to share a bit more. But ultimately, we're talking about protecting hundreds of billions of dollars in value for consumers. Because what we're seeing now is with regulatory changes and the amount of people coming to crypto, we think the attack vector is only going to increase for protocols and for users. So we want to ensure that as new users come into DeFi, as new users come into crypto, they don't go through those same kind of attacks that have been plaguing people for quite a while.
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump in on that too?
Yeah, sure.
So every company has a value to it, right? And the reality is that Web3 provides an interesting opportunity, specifically the stack related to Sui provides opportunity for business to make and do meaningful things with their customers in ways they just couldn't do before. So first of all, I encourage companies to go out and look at the kinds of things that they can do with Web3 in their own companies. Okay, that aside for a second. Those same companies have a value associated with their brand, right? And what they can't do is sacrifice that. And so the reason that we spend so much time with security is to make sure that we are delivering the most secure environments for institution, for business, for enterprise, for government, so that they can jump into this space in a confident way, in a way that's compliant, in a way that meets regulatory scrutiny, in a way that can be audited. These things from a third-party risk management perspective are important for us to be able to not only demonstrate that we've built our infrastructure to be able to support the needs of these people, but to be able to do so also at scale.
I got it. Yeah. And all these partners, do you think that the fact that you guys come to that meta stable and your expertise as well, that's helped you very much so in terms of onboarding these partners, these large enterprises? It's
a good question. I mean, I think the idea of things like third-party risk management don't exist really at small companies. Yeah. So if you've only come from a small company, you don't understand the rigor that you go through as an infrastructure provider to a large company, right? There are so many checkboxes that you've got to go through. We started with this checklist, right? And then we asked, what else can we do? And so just the environments that we provide are just so remarkably secure, candidly so much so that threat actors are at the point where they actually try and avoid us.
Yeah. Don't give up the game.
Because we're not the easy target.
Yeah. I mean, even now, we've We published a paper recently on the ability to be quantum secure for Sui. So within the next 2 years, Sui will be the only quantum secure public chain that's available. And then you add that into Seal. So you'll be able to publicly secure content using Seal secret management and actually use quantum encryption mechanisms to secure your data publicly. So we actually have countries asking us about this, right? How they can secure their own infrastructure using Sui. So we have applicability for our tech beyond just crypto.
Yeah. And that's a great segue in terms of the other things that you guys are building out on a protocol layer, like an L1 layer at Sui. Obviously, there's the consensus mechanism. Like, what are the exciting things you guys got planned in the next 3-4 months that we could learn about?
So one of the things is going to be relaunching in September is Walrus with Seal.
Yeah.
So people will start to see that Seal, Walrus is quickly becoming the destination platform for anyone doing anything interesting from data perspective on AI. So if you want to build data marketplaces and you want to do that directly, you want to sell data, you want to put data behind paywalls and allow LLMs to engage with it directly using payment schemes, Walrus is the destination, and that's happening already. More to share about that. That's actually going to be launched in September. We have a global security mechanism that's launching directly also on Sui and Walrus. That, as I mentioned, is going to actually secure all top wallets in crypto. When you go to a website, you'll be able to know if you're looking at the right Aave protocol or you're looking at the fake Aave protocol. And you'll know someone is putting a fake sign-in with Google mechanism or a real one. So all these things that you need to keep users secure, everything is going to be focused on making the internet a lot more safer and secure. But beyond that, we have 2 amazing, globally well-renowned game companies that are going to be launching their titles on Sui. Some already run it on Sui, but it's not publicly being talked about yet. I've always said Sui should be, it should ritually be a utility, not a commodity.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is something you're doing every day is being powered by Sui. You don't wake up in the morning and say, this website is amazing because it's running on Google. It's just a website that runs, right? So there are a number of game companies who are already using Sui under the belly that will be making major announcements as well. But ultimately, the caliber of partners that are jumping into the Sui ecosystem is just now at next stratospheric level. The kind of stuff you expect when you want to see global mass adoption. And it's now starting to happen. And honestly, I couldn't be happier.
Very exciting, yeah. And on the partnership side, on the foundation side, there's also like in TradFi, you've had a lot of partnerships with like Signum Bank, for example. You've got the tokenized gold issuance as well on Sui. And then also you guys are going to be running Mill City Ventures, which is or in coordination with Mill City Ventures, which I learned a lot more about in terms of it's not just going to be a standard treasury company that's going to go and buy it in Sui. It's going to help develop the ecosystem, bring projects on board, invest in them, and working in close coordination with the foundation. So I'm curious to learn more about that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're seeing there, of course, is signal, right? Yeah. I mean, institutions are a funny thing, right? Yeah. Institutions put a lot of money into research. They have a lot of very smart people that sit behind computers. They do a lot of analysis, not only on the people, but on the protocols and sort of like the trajectory of things, right? And so really what you're seeing here is that you're seeing these institutions come in and see what it is we're building. And they're, it's a fantastic endorsement for us. Beyond them just making investments or like Mill City, of course, the reality is that, there are partnerships that we can do with these companies to enable their own business, right? And push them into Web3 and to get them enabled to be able to interact with their customers in ways that they couldn't do before. If you want to talk like about Mill City specifically, right? I mean, the mechanism that has been built there that has just started for us to be able to create a funding mechanism for our own, ecosystem, I think is going to be remarkable. Right. The other piece is sort of just, there's other pieces like the deflationary things that happen with the token in particular. You start taking that number of tokens off and it's super helpful. But
yeah. And another really interesting sector you guys are going to work on, and you talked about as well, is robotics.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what's going on. What's going on with robotics?
Yeah, as the big story we've always said is Sui is this coordination layer, right? Yeah. Sui will coordinate all things digital in the future. And one of the areas we started playing around is we have something launching soon called ZK Tunnels. Effectively using Sui to create these zero-knowledge lightning networks between yourself and then a digital device. Today, Sui can be used to directly connect to robots or drones And you can use that session that you've used with Sui to authenticate to effectively control any drone you want. And at the same time, we're doing it also with Linux boxes. So you can actually gate a Linux box by a set of rules to say, hey, this person can access this Linux box for 30 minutes. Here are the kind of commands I allow them to run. And then gate that directly, fully permissionless, doing that permissionlessly. So we believe that Sui would not only coordinate what you do on the internet, but also allow you to coordinate what you do in regards to devices. I can rent out something I'm not using Sui. I can give you access to my computer to do some analysis if you're using Sui. Imagine an exchange saying, hey, we're running solvency proofs. An auditor, we're going to give you access to a machine, and you can do the audit log checks to make sure we run the right scripts for the solvency proofs, but without having to give you access to the entire drive. So these kind of things, authentication and execution, is going to be done directly using Sui. But it goes further than that. We're making a big play into the AI space, and these agentic payments is an area that we're investing heavily. And you marry agentic payments with the ability to coordinate and use these robots. You've got interesting use cases that we can't wait to show.
Interesting. So using robots in real world to basically solve problems, you know,
Correct.
like you were talking about the example about pests, for example, in a field, right? You know, you can use your robots, the agentic coordination with the payments as well, to basically pay these agents to go out there and do your bidding for you.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I sit and listen to Adeniyi talk, and the one thing that I'm so grateful for is I'm surrounded by people that are so intelligent. I feel like I get to listen to Adeniyi, and then I get to like dumb it down. You know what I mean? So like, here's the reality, right? Is that it's not the far distant future that AI is going to do things for us, right? But it sounds easy to do, but it isn't. Like, even just a really basic example, if you want to use your AI to make a dentist appointment for you, think of all the things that go into actually doing that. It has to look at your calendar to see if you're available or in town. It has to look at the dentists to see if they're available and what there is. It needs to be able to look at your insurance and say, like, what's the copay? Like, all those kinds of things. It's got to be able to validate, like,
what's your medical conditions? Exactly.
Absolutely.
What do we need to know about? What
Right?
sort of treatment do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
There are lots of things that go into doing very basic things, but what will happen is that when we talk about a coordination layer for Sui, this is what we're talking about, is that it is actually coordinating lots of things in the background that are required to do. And then if you pile on top of it a thing like a robot, right? I mean, just close your eyes and imagine the kinds of things that robots will do. And then imagine like all of the coordination that has to happen for a robot to do a thing on your behalf, right? And so it's going to be an amazing thing for humanity to take advantage of these technologies, and it's not simple to do, but we've created the infrastructure and the developer stack that allows it to be seamless, that allows it to be obfuscated in the back so that you just don't see it. You just know you hit the button and a thing happens.
This will be demoed in Singapore, so it's really cool. People can see it in action.
So at your event, you're going to have with token, right, in Singapore?
Well,
demoed where in terms of
the robotic coordination. It's all going to be demoable in Singapore, so people will be able to turn up, log in with a Slush wallet or whatever wallet they use, and start coordinating robots right away.
But would this be at an event at a particular time?
This will be at Token 24/9.
Okay,
Token 24/9 at our live event.
Yeah, that's exciting, guys. Be sure to bookmark that.
Yeah.
So just coming back to growth, network growth, and everything in terms of these network stats, and over the past year, if you reflect back on, I think we had an interview about almost a year ago now, and we talked about some of your goals and aspirations in terms of network growth and stuff. Yeah. I'm curious as to what sort of network stats do you look at, and how have they grown over the past year?
So we used to focus profusely on the number of engaging wallets, focus profusely on TVL and trading volume, because from an ecosystem, DeFi almost drives all forms of activity. You want to make sure you have a healthy DeFi on your ecosystem to a large extent. We believe the network stats are looking really, really good at this point in time. And what we want to do is to supercharge them. And the way you supercharge that is really now looking at the developer stats. Okay. So for the past 2 years, we've been performing really well on Electric Capital stats, but we also have our own internal stats we use to monitor active developer activity. And the last 2 years mentioned, Sui's outgrown all other networks from a percentage point of view. But the goal now will be to grow that outside of crypto and into Web2 as well. So we want to be seeing Sui being a comfortable place where it's got 4,000 to 5,000 active devs, jump to 20,000, jump to 100,000. These are numbers that far surpass crypto, and these are nonsensical numbers when it comes to traditional tech from my perspective. The bar is very, very low in crypto from dev count perspective. So we've got a long way to go in terms of growing to the real stats from Web2.
Yeah, the same amount of devs who, in totality of Web3 is what exists right now in one company. And
exactly.
Yeah, so it's basically a much bigger pie in the Web2 space. Yeah. Christian, what other kind of stats are on your dashboard from a foundation perspective?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was actually just sitting there kind of getting excited about it. So like, this is the first time in this industry where we are so very close to mainstream adopting what it is we've been preaching for many years. It took a long time for the internet to get adopted, like at scale. It took a long time. Yeah. And it's taken a long time for our industry too, but like we're right on that precipice. So for me, it's less about like metrics, it's more about signal. And so when you get, effectively leadership of every country in the world talking about it, right? When you get, regulatory bodies that are now really defining policy, right? You get a legislature that is creating law to allow it, to enable it, to pour gasoline on the fire. You can see from that like you're like right there. Yeah. And so, for me, the thing that will happen over the next few years is just pure adoption. It is watching developers do really interesting things for business, for enterprise, for institution. That's the stuff that's going to get interesting.
Exciting stuff, man. So we've covered a lot, guys. I mean, just to round off with, what are looking forward in the next 3 to 6 months? What are the most important initiatives you're working on, and what should the audience be bookmarking in their calendars in terms of what could be rolled out, both in the partnership and the tech side?
Yeah, so expect to see more on the institutional front with Sui. We have a major initiative towards the end of the year where we're partnering with a number of custodians to effectively give greater access to funds of funds and large sovereign wealth funds to leverage their Bitcoin in the safest possible way without ever using bridges. We have a lot of initiatives when it comes to AI and data, specifically data markets. We believe Walrus now enables you to do on-chain data markets and literally treat data like value for the first time. Data becomes like Bitcoin to a large extent. And that economy alone is worth trillions, and it's never been monetized or tapped into before. And we're looking forward to that. So expect to see more on AI and data. Expect to see more on institutional front because we're doing a ton on institutional adoption side. And also expect to see more from a gaming side. We have a number of household game studios that are already built on Sui that are soon to start announcing the cool stuff that they've been doing. And the most important thing is the business metrics are going up. So it's not great to just say you're on chain, but you're seeing easier to retain users, lower cost of user engagement, lower cost of acquisition of users. The business metrics have to move up for crypto to get real adoption. And that's what we're seeing with Sui, which is why we're building this all along.
Anything on the foundation side we should be looking out for, or partnerships and announcements? Or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's coming. We've been working for the last couple of years building atop existing relationship we had coming out of Facebook. And you think of all the Fortune 5,000 companies, you think of effectively every government in the world. I mean, when we were at Facebook, these are the kinds of people who we came to know and understand and that. So we've been cultivating those relationships for a long time. So, it's reasonable to expect more and more to come from that as a result. I would say at the end of the day, it's this, is that, we are hyper focused on making sure we're delivering value, right? And so, more and more you will see companies, large institutions, and government start to adopt what it is has been built. And they will do it from a trusted partner. And right now, we are those people.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you, guys. This has been a really engaging conversation. I've learned a lot more about the global coordination layer, and I'm really excited to see some of the other talks tomorrow at this event, and indeed be at that Singapore event and see the robots in action.
Let's go.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comments down below. Cheers, guys.
Thanks all.